Kalimera, kalispera, kalinichta. No matter where in this wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world you might be, thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. Don't say I don't do nice things for you. It's GOAT status at Squad Central tonight. Let's rock and roll, squaddies.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
That M1 derails another one of our guests, but should we forgive the GOAT or should he be carded? I'll leave it to you, squaddies. Welcome to Squad Central, the legendary commentator, Mr. Peter Drury.
Hey, Sophie, how are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm good too. Good too. A little bit flustered. As you hint, I've been wrestling with the M1, but here I am, and I'm really glad to be here.
Now, if I carded David Ornstein, who won a Sports Journalist Award yesterday, and I know you've won many, it feels wrong to not card you.
No, listen, it's bookable. There's no question. It's bookable.
Your commentary on that would be he had it coming.
He had it coming, exactly. The referee had no option.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and good evening, squaddies at ease. If you have a question for Peter, get it in. I'm going to do like a little 5-minute bit with your question, so put a cue in front of it. They love you, and I love comments like this because the listeners have been so excited. Can't think of another football commentator that I'd rather listen to. Drury is absolutely brilliant. Thanks, Soph, for making this happen. A nod to our good friend Magic Mike for helping this one happen too. Peter's been so generous in the Gooners v Cancers podathon and appeared with Mike many times. And I wrote Mike and I said, it would be a dream to have Peter on the show. So as our chief like officer, Tammy Steele, says, please hit the like button on the way in. It costs you absolutely nothing. All right, Peter, it's mayhem here. Someone's phone's going off. I do apologize, listeners. Sorry about that. Right, here we go. I'm going to break this up into 3 different sections because it's not often we get your take on the beautiful game. So there's a few hot topics that I want to get your take on. The first one is the big news today about Trent Alexander-Arnold, who you've commentated on many, many times, a super talented footballer. Some Liverpool fans losing their minds. I get it. I don't obviously accept, and no one should, any vitriolic type of behavior towards Trent. But what's your take on him going to Real Madrid, Peter?
My take is that the guy's a human being who's very, very good at football and has been offered the chance of a fabulous career move. I totally understand Liverpool supporters who are massively disappointed. Of course they are, because he's a super player, and what's more, he's a proper dyed-in-the-wool Scouser. He's one of them, and they feel attached to him. There are parallels being drawn out there with Steve McManaman back in the day, who made exactly the same career move. But, you know, if somebody offered me the chance to play for Real Madrid, I think I probably would. So I as a neutral, a genuine neutral, I find it hard to be cross with him. Good luck to him. He's a brilliant young English player.
And I think, you know, a lot of the times we complain about young English players not diving into the international scene for football. He's won everything at Liverpool. And, you know, they're going to walk off with the Premier League this season too. He's given everything to that club since he was a young boy. And I think most sensible Liverpool fans would, you know, give it with their blessing. As long as another player called Saliba doesn't follow him out the door.
You see. Different rules for you, aren't they?
Very different.
Different rules. No, I get that. But I'm sure he'd be the first to say as well, Sophie, that Liverpool have given him everything. You know, that is a proper, posh word coming up, symbiotic relationship between an employer and an employee. You know, they loved each other and were great for each other. And listen, maybe a relationship has kind of run its course. I don't know. It's none of my business. All I do know is that I love watching him play, and I wish him all the luck in the world.
Yeah. And for, I mean, this could be the house of cards, Peter. Salah, Van Dijk, you know, they win, they go off for a brand new challenge, more money elsewhere as well. You can't begrudge any of those three players. They've done everything for Liverpool and they've been superb for Liverpool. So Okay, enough about Liverpool. Let's do a generic one to kick off with, because you've been around the game for a long time. Is it fact or myth that the game used to be better, Peter?
I honestly believe it's myth, which is not to say that I'm not as guilty as everyone else of indulging in nostalgia, because our memories of certain periods in our life, of football matches that kind of dovetail with moments in our life, make us remember them in a very special way. And we remember our clubs in a very special way, and glorious moments. And what happened yesterday gets sepia tinged and is part of the album of our life. And we remember it that way. But in very simple terms, I'm a great believer that the human race evolves and gets better and better and better at everything it does. I mean, listen, some things get worse and worse and worse, don't they, in life? But essentially, human beings are quicker and stronger and more agile than they were a generation ago and a generation before that. Take George Best, who's a nice neutral example in the context of an Arsenal podcast, just universally accepted as an absolutely brilliant footballer. And in his era, probably untouchably brilliant. But I wonder now, and I wonder out loud, it's a genuine rhetorical question, I don't claim to know the answer, how many players in the Premier League are as good at football as George Best was? And, you might say BUKAYO Saka is as good as George Best. I don't know, maybe he's not. But what I'm saying is that there are so many super talented players in our league, in the Premier League, that I find it hard to believe that football hasn't progressed, because athleticism, the human race, has progressed. And we've all learned to do, as a matter of course, what a generation or two ago was considered special. Am I making sense from myself?
Yeah, no. I love, because I was going to ask this, and you brought up Georgie Best, and that's why my dad fell in love with football. That's why he became a Manchester United supporter for all of his sins. But it was the Georgie Best's kind of popcorn football, unbelievable, which is why, for me, when people just keep labeling Messi the GOAT, I grew up in an era where I was blown away by Diego Maradona. And kind of, what he did at Napoli in itself. And if you go to Naples, squaddies, you'll see any cafe you go into, there's a framed picture of Jesus Christ, and right next to it is Diego Maradona. And then you go to Cristiano Ronaldo, Eden Hazard, Alexis Sanchez, Ozil, all these other kind of popcorn type players. But it seems like in the last couple of seasons, the popcorn player, there's SAKA, I think
player, surely
he's a popcorn player. Yeah. There aren't as many popcorn players right now in the Premier League. Would you agree, or am I being fair or foul?
Well, Salah's a popcorn player, isn't he?
He's a popcorn player, yeah.
So let's go through them. Manchester City at the moment, he's not having a great time perhaps in this moment, but Jack Grealish has got people off their seats and thrilled them and entertained them. And all of those Manchester City players in recent years, from your sort of David Silvas onwards, or even before, all of their little dash and dart midfield players, they've been a thrill to watch. Saka, we've mentioned almost. I mean, I better not mention Tottenham's players, because you'll laugh in my face or cut me off. And nobody will want me on here ever again.
Who's a popcorn player at Tottenham? This one's a stretch.
I'm reluctant to say it because you'll hate it and you'll laugh. But I would say that Maddison has the potential to be a popcorn player, and I know that he divides opinion. I know that, but he's fun. What I'm saying is he's fun.
Cole Palmer has been a popcorn player.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like they say about. I think it's a hard environment for these guys to be in. And I know they're very well paid superstars and they have wonderful lives and all of that. But it's a harder, and that's why I was nervous about saying Maddison, really, because it's a natural part of partisanship that you're cynical about him anyway. Okay. But I think you'd have to accept that he is, in your case, for better or worse, a character player. He's someone who puts himself out there and plays a bit of a smile and a bit of mischief. and on his day can do something a bit different. And those are the players we love to engage with. And when the conversation is around there aren't the characters anymore, I think there are the characters, and the characters are sometimes the ones who get a bit squashed because circumstances catch up with them and they have a few bad months. And maybe Jack Grealish is a better example now. He's struggling to get a game with Manchester City, but he's a player who people love to love and equally rivalrously love to hate. You know, and I think those are the players that make the soap opera what it is.
Yeah. I mentioned this on the show a few days ago, and I got slapped on the wrist by some of our listeners, but I don't care. I said it out loud. I'd make a cheeky bid for Jack Grealish. I think there's still a player in there, and I think Mikel Arteta is the type of manager who could get the best out of a Jack Grealish on the left-hand side, has the Premier League experience. But, you know, Arsenal fans want the Nico Williams, or that's a whole conversation for another day. But I'm a huge fan. A character is the one thing, you know, he likes a night out, and not many Arsenal players like a night out. So maybe culturally he doesn't fit, but also maybe he understands that this is a swan song moment for him to kind of change a little bit. So yeah, I'd make a cheeky bid for Jack Grealish, but I can't say that anymore, Peter. So I have to keep that. You can't. There's two names you can't mention on the show: Rashford and Grealish.
Oh really? Oh really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Rashford fan, and he's having a little bit of a renaissance now. But I want to get stuck into a little bit more Arsenal with you. And you mentioned BUKAYO. And as a commentator, when you kind of paint the picture and you develop the narrative, these popcorn players are really important. It's what excites you and gets you on your feet when you're doing your job. And BUKAYO, Nwaneri, and Lewis Skelly, probably the best Hale End exports in years. Yeah. As a fan and as a commentator as well, when you look at these three young players, and as an England man yourself, it's pretty exciting, is it not? And don't you think we should be protecting these three at all costs? BUKAYO suffered, you know, at the hands of some horrible fans after the Euros. You know, Lewis Skelly is being painted with a certain brush in the media right now, and I think we should be wrapping our arms around a player like him. Your commentary of SAKA, one of my favorites, such poise, such noise, you know, I think it was the shoulder of giant shoulders or something. It was the 3-2, the penalty against Liverpool. Talk to me a little bit about your different hats as you see these three Haylenders.
As you rightly say, Sophie, we as broadcasters are utterly dependent on people like these. You know, these are the stars of the soap opera that bring it to life and give us something to hang our hat on. You know, it's SAKA to me, and I've never met the guy. I'd love to meet him, but he just feels like a beautiful human being. You know, he has, as you rightly say, suffered some horrendous stuff. He sets an example through his humanity that's it's impossible not to want to follow and to love. And so coming at it entirely neutrally, there are players, and I have to cover myself by saying this because there are other players at other clubs you'd say the same about. This is not about Arsenal-ness, but there are players, and SAKA is certainly one of them, who instinctively you cannot help but hope they thrive. And SAKA has made himself one of those. His copybook is unblotted. You know, he's just a fabulous player, and he always delivers, and he smiles, and he appears to have perspective, and he appears to be grounded. And it's a sad fact of our cynical world, I suppose, that these things can't last forever. But I hope in his case they last for as long as they possibly can. And the two new guys who we're learning about now, or have been learning about over this season, absolutely. Let us hope that they prove worthy of falling into the same category. And that there's no reason why they wouldn't. I mean, Nwaneri, how much fun is he? And he's going through this beautiful stage of fearlessness, of of youthful, carefree football. And the goal he scored the other night for the under-21s, another absolute gem. And Lewis Skelly, I agree with you. He's had a couple of unfortunate moments in his very early days. I mean, for goodness sakes, he's barely out of school, and he's playing the highest level of men's football. And why wouldn't he be pumped? And isn't it exciting that we've got a left back since the world began? Where's England's next left back coming from? It feels that way. I mean, there he is, and he's absolutely joyous. He's joyous. So for me, sport, we're sometimes so earnest. Come on, it's fun, and here are people who are fun.
Did you have a problem with the Haaland? Did you have a problem with the Haaland celebration? I mean, especially if we look at Anthony Gordon doing the Thierry Henry on us at the Emirates, and then you've got Rasmus Holland. I butchered his name there. Doing the Cristiano Ronaldo in front of Cristiano Ronaldo, and there's very little narrative about that. Did you have an issue with Miles Lewis Skelly? What he did?
Honestly. These things slightly pass me by, which is probably renders me a dinosaur. I can't keep track of whose celebration belongs to whom, and therefore, I find myself unoffended by any of it. If it's doing harm, well, I'm sorry. Then perhaps
football's not for you, huh?
I'm not feeling very harmed by it. It feels to me again like a part of the narrative, really. It's kind of neither here nor there. And if they're enjoying it and it's bringing a smile to people's faces in a way that causes no harm, then crack on.
Now, Mr. Drury, I believe you are our lucky charm. The last time the Gunners played Real Madrid at the Cathedral, you were the commentator, and when Thierry scored, you said the Gunner Galactico. Brilliant stuff as always from you. Are you going to be commentating on this game? And if not, what do you make of this moment? For us, it's like David versus Goliath. Even though we're Arsenal Football Club, they are the kings of Europe. They are the perennial winners. You've got Ancelotti, Mbappe, Bellingham, the rest of the cast and crew at Real Madrid. Are you commentating on this game?
I'm not. I'm afraid I exist outside of the Champions League these days for, as they say,
right, because I'm in America, so I've lost contact with.
Yeah. So no, I'm not. I would love to be. I miss the Champions League greatly. But I must say, from an Arsenal perspective, it feels to me like a really delicious game, because of the extreme likelihood now that you won't be champions of England. I mean, here's a crack at being champions of Europe. And, it is the glamour game. It's a beautiful game. And it's not one off because it's two legs, but it is a chance to demonstrate what we all know. And that is that Arsenal, when the best 11 are available, I mean, the best 11 may not be available, but listen, I'm tiptoeing around the big cliche, which is that on their day, Arsenal can beat anyone. And I really believe that about Arsenal against Real Madrid. It's complicated by there being two legs, but I just think that if I were an Arsenal fan, that is a feast being put in front of me, and I'm going to absolutely gorge myself on it. And I might wake up with indigestion in the morning, but I just might not. And what an event to look forward to, and to sort of as a fan base to congregate around.
Totally. And 2006, you were there, and I think people forget that we had Senderos at centre back, Flamini playing at left back.
I forgot.
I think it's the single one of the best moments for Arsenal. I know it ended up being really disappointing, and damn it, that was our chance. And it just shows you how hard it is to go back, Peter. And now we're facing like a beastly Real Madrid team just full of absolute rock stars and superstars. But watching Thierry Henry play and commentating on him and that moment and your words, and I went back and listened to and watched it back before we spoke. It was really a very special moment for us. And I think Mikel will use that as fuel to say, listen, you know, we lost two of our best players in Sol Campbell and Ashley Cole at the time, and went on and we beat Real Madrid at the Cathedral.
Absolutely so. And in common with several other clubs, Arsenal have had to deal this season without major players a lot of the time. And you know what? For all the massive opinions that go on around Arsenal and around all the major clubs, actually, they have dealt with those problems very, very well. They have. I mean, they're still second in the English Premier League, despite it all. And that up against it narrative is sometimes a really useful one to feed off. And I think Mikel Arteta is just the right guy to charge them up for it. And what I love, by the way, despite the fact you are the supporter and our viewers and listeners here are supporters of one of the big clubs who can win things and do win things, is that you cling to the realization, which is a truth for supporters of most clubs, the clubs that never win anything, that sometimes or always football is about moments. It's about moments. So Arsenal didn't win the Champions League that year, but they had that moment. Football creates a memory, and that is a really special memory. Nobody walked away with a trophy at the end of it. And at that stage in 2006, you know, trophies as a matter of course was still very much a part of being an Arsenal supporter. You know, memories were very recent and fresh. And so, I don't know, this sounds almost as if I'm patronising you, which I shouldn't be, because you are Arsenal and you should expect to win.
Don't get another yellow, Peter. You don't want to get sent off.
Well, if that happens, I've gone. I've gone. But all I'm saying is, if you end up not winning it, but you have a glorious moment in the Bernabeu, then that's still a glorious moment. And listen, if you have a couple of glorious moments in the Bernabeu, that might be enough to win it.
Yeah. Man, you have a way with words. You convinced me you could sell ice to an Eskimo. I'm all in. You know, you were talking about Mikel Arteta and our injuries, and I do have a couple of video questions for you from a few of our listeners and co-hosts that have been on the show. And, you know, injuries have been a huge part and problem for a lot of teams last year. Newcastle, Tottenham decimated this season. We've been decimated this season. And there's a lot of football to play. But who's accountable? Here's a question from one of our favourites. Here you go, Peter.
Hey, Sophie, Highbury Squad, and Mr. Drury, thank you for taking my question. My name is MK. I'm from Los Angeles, a longtime Arsenal supporter. And my question for Mr. Drury is as follows. How much of the blame does Arteta deserve for the injury crisis currently plaguing Arsenal? And what do you think he should do differently? Thanks so much.
MK, that is a tough question, and thank you for it. My instinctive answer, and I'm not a specialist in this area at all, but my instinctive answer to the straight question is none. He didn't kick them, push them over, or cause them to pull their various hamstrings and other muscles in various parts of their body. I dare say he drove them hard, as a lot of coaches drive their players hard because they have to. I also dare say he takes a lot of advice from medics and various experts on the anatomy when he's deciding how to deploy his troops, as all top level coaches do now. I think the modern manager, coach, whatever, the figurehead of all clubs, on the whole, does tend to shoulder more blame than their due. Because they are the figurehead. You know, who do we blame? We blame Arteta. And I just think, frankly, it's misfortune.
Yeah, it's.
But I'm happy to be told I'm wrong. Honestly,
Yeah, no,
I am, because I just don't know. I don't know enough about it.
I think the issue is, Peter, that when you have your front three all out with hammies and two of them need surgery and you've played them into the ground, and Saka especially has played a lot of football, even Kai Havertz for Germany and Arsenal, and kind of coming off at the Wolves game looking like he needed a stretcher. The Dubai trip, maybe he should have been the player around the pool with the pina colada mocktail, of course. You know, that fans have questions, but yeah, it is part of the game too. But Mikel really squeezes as much as he can out of his favourite players. And
but is he unique in that regard? I doubt it.
I mean, well, when you look at the squad depth of, say, City and what Pep's been able to do, I just don't think we've prepared well for the moment, so it looks bad on Mikel. That's the issue. The club haven't prepared well in the summer transfer market and in January. And so it's just, you know, now you're playing Mikel Merino up front, which is, you know, putting Band-Aids on problems that maybe you could have solved in previous transfer windows. So I think that's where most Arsenal fans sit. What can I ask you real quick before we move on to some quick fire stuff for you? Do you think this has been a poor quality season in the Premier League? I think Liverpool deserve their flowers, but do you think you've been there, you've kind of commentated on so many games?
To be honest, I don't. I think it's been quite a sort of democratic season in the Premier League, which is to say that the if you like, other people have used this term, not me, but that it's been a great season for the middle classes. And that is to say that the royalty, the Arsenals, Manchester United notably, of course, Liverpool are probably going to win the league. That's what I'm saying. I'm being a bit clumsy about this. What I'm saying is it's been the season of Bournemouth and Brighton and Villa and, you know,
Forest, yeah,
and Forest. Forest is the best example. Why didn't I think of them first? Those teams who can only aspire and dream of the top 5, 6, 7, 8, now get to run in and have a realistic chance of making it. And actually, I think they're the ones who've made it a really interesting season, interesting season. And it's if we are assuming that Arsenal can't catch Liverpool now, it's an assumption we have to be wary of because strange things can happen. But if we're assuming that, then the race for the podium is going to make it fascinating. The race to be in the Champions League, even the race for second place for what that might or might not be worth. You know,
relegation, unfortunately, is boring this year, isn't it?
Well, that is a shame. That is a shame, you know, because those are good clubs with good fans. And I feel as I sort of have a love affair with all of the clubs because I love the whole narrative. And I've particularly enjoyed going to Ipswich this year, a really lovely club who've given it a real blast. And if they go straight back down, I do find that a shame because they're such decent people. And but in the end, it's brutal, isn't it? And if you can't win enough games, you're going back where you came from.
All right, good stuff. So here we go. We're going to do some. Let me get the next couple of questions. We've got some generic stuff coming up. Here's our co-host of our women's show, one of our favorites. Curious on this one. I think it's a great question from Albert.
Welcome, Highbury Squad community. #Squaddy, smash that like button for the Highbury Squad. Sophie, firstly, thank you, Super Sophie Nicolau, for allowing me to ask the amazing, fantastic Peter Drury a question. Peter, I was lucky enough to meet you virtually on Mike Feinberg's 27 or 24-hour podathon, I should say, which was a complete honor for me because I absolutely love you to pieces. And I think Mike played you the voice note. So when Sophie asked me, do I want to pose a question to Peter, I said, of course I do. But yeah, my question to you, Peter, is if it wasn't for you being the amazing football commentator that you are, what was the alternative or the alternatives in terms of your career choice if it wasn't to be a football commentator?
What a lovely guy. I do remember meeting him with Mike, Albert, and thank you for being so kind. I mean, that's such a lovely message. when I graduated from university, I was an accountant for a month, and a trainee accountant, and
Wow.
and so maybe that's and I essentially gave that up to follow the dream, for two reasons. One, because I fancied following the dream, but also because I really didn't fancy being an accountant any longer. And I hold accountants, by the way, in the highest esteem, because they do stuff that I can't do. And so whether I would have ended up doing that, I'm not sure. I sometimes, in romantic moments, think of myself as a potential teacher. I'd like to have done that.
Oh.
And I've spent a day with students today, and I must say I found it really fulfilling. So perhaps that would have been but I don't know if I know. I don't think I know enough to teach anything. But so it's all very theoretical.
You've got the look of a referee to me, Peter. You could have been a ref.
I've got Howard Webb's hair.
Here's one that I think you'll find really interesting, and I love how it deviates totally from football. Getting to know the legend here.
What is going on, squaddies? Demian here from Los Angeles. Sophie, my friend, I love you. I miss you. Keep up the amazing work. And what a show are you guys having, Highbury Squad, with the one and only Peter Drury. What an honor it is to be here, even virtually. I admire you. I respect you. And you are the GOAT. So asking you just one question would be like asking Leonardo da Vinci only one question. But as an exercise, as a wordsmith and a poet that you are and a true artist of your craft, I want to know what your favorite or who your favorite songwriter is. I would also love to know if you play any music instruments. And if you don't, which ones would you love to play and why? See you soon and thank you.
So Demian is also a co-host on the show, and he's a drummer for Miley Cyrus, and he's been on tour with so many artists. And so, yeah, I love his question, right?
Well, it's a lovely question. It's a shame he's asked it to a Philistine. But I appreciate it. Listen, I'm a very middle-of-the-road, middle-aged music lover. I'm a bit Elton John. Is that okay to say? Is that okay to say? Yeah. So there's my answer, really.
I love that.
I love a bit of Elton John, which is perhaps what you might expect from someone of my age and profile.
If I'm stranded on a deserted island, I'm Still Standing is coming with me. It's gonna be the song that keeps me going. Okay, here's some quick fire ones for you. I know you get asked this a lot, and you've had so many, but the squaddies want to know your favorite commentary moment. Is it Blue Moon Rising? Is that the one?
So forgive me again for tiptoeing around it. So I'm always very wary of this question because there's nothing more arrogant than quoting yourself back. And so
Blue Moon Has Risen. Sorry.
And you need to be wary of remembering that the great moments don't belong to the commentator. They belong to the purveyors of the great moments. You know, Aguero scored the goal. Nobody else did. And so on, you know, Saka scored the goal. Nobody else did. So if you'll forgive me, I'm going to dodge that one. Because it feels really self-indulgent.
Okay, you're the guy. You can dodge it.
When something amazing happens and I happen to be sitting there with a microphone, I just consider myself lucky to have the best seat to watch it from.
I've got one for you. Would you keep the Blue Moon Has Risen or take Saka World Cup winning goal?
I'd say, no question, Saka World Cup winning goal. And that's not just because I'm talking to Arsenal. It's because I was born in 1967 and England won the World Cup in 1966. So it hasn't happened in my lifetime, and we're ticking off the World Cups fast. So without any hesitation, Saka World Cup winning goal.
I love it. Is there a moment you wish you could take back?
I can't come up with a specific, but what I will say is that one of the great frustrations of my job is that you think of all the best lines when you're in the car park afterwards. You think, oh, why didn't I say that? So yeah, there are quite a lot of moments, hundreds of them, that I wish I could have another crack at.
All right. What do you really think of the commentators that go nuts and have been yelling goal for the last 40 odd years?
I think that they're great because that's their way of doing it. Whenever young people talk to me about how do I become a commentator, what advice would you give? One of the first things I say is be authentic. Don't pretend to be anyone else. Just be true to yourself. And we live in a world where not everybody's going to love you. But if you try doing it a different way just because that's what you think, then you'll be transparent very quickly. And so if the method, if the way of doing it in a part of the world, particularly, South America on the whole, this is how they do it, then that's great. That's great. And in a way, I wish it was the way we did it, because the great thing about just shouting goal is that it gives you a long, long time before you need to know who scored it. And that takes some of the pressure away.
Okay, so I'll tie these ones together in a quick fire. You're the best color commentator, and then Lawrence wants to know, how do you cope with Lee Dixon and Graham Lasso yapping in your ear all the time when you're commentating games for NBC in the United States?
Well, listen, you won't be surprised to hear that answering personally about best, if I say one, then I'll be in trouble for not saying another. So what I would say about Graham Lasso and Lee Dixon is that I love them yapping in my ear. They're two terrific people who used to hate each other. They used to hate each other. When Arsenal played Chelsea, there is footage of them kicking pieces out of each other. And now they're really good friends. I love that, because that is how sport should be. It should be highly competitive. Absolutely. Arsenal are playing Chelsea. Of course, we hate each other. And then when we all grow up and meet in another life, we realize that, he's actually a human being and so am I. And we can shake hands, and they are great guys. And without their yapping, I would be terribly ill-informed.
You can cope with Gary Neville, you can cope with Lee Dixon and Graham Lasso. There, I
all
said
of those
it for you gooners, yes. The worst and best gantry.
Well, funnily enough, I get asked this one a little bit, and the best no longer exists because it was Highbury. And it was the position at Highbury on the far side, looking out opposite the old tunnel with the clock to your right and the north bank to your left, was at just the right height, close enough to the action but far enough away, discreet, and separate enough but close enough, and was absolutely beautiful. So I think those of us who had the privilege of broadcasting from there mourned the passing of Highbury in that regard, because a lot of them made for television stadia, as in the modern new ones, are fantastically equipped, but they're so big and sometimes you are quite distant. And Arsenal's not the worst for that. Arsenal is still a very good one, but Liverpool, fabulous stadium with a great atmosphere, you're very high up. And I understand why. There are people who pay for tickets. Why should those of us who don't get a better vantage point?
Right.
So there you are. I'm rambling again.
White Hart Lane used to be the worst view ever, like the old White Hart Lane. It felt like it was a bit of a nosebleed back in the day.
Right up there under the roof. Did you go on the television gantry there?
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah.
Well, maybe. I can't admit that on here, but
no.
yeah.
No, well, listen, I used to love that sort of ground, and actually Everton's the same, and we're coming to the end of Goodison Park now, which is terribly sad, where because the ground was there before television was there, it was kind of ramshackle. They had to find a way of dealing with it, and you climbed up weird staircases and odd ladders and all that sort of thing to get there. And I love that quirkiness, which with the everybody replaces their ground every so often, you hardly get anymore. So I'm quite looking forward to climbing the weird staircases and ladders at Goodison for a final time if I get that chance.
Love that.
And same went for White Hart Lane, oddly enough.
Well, Goodison is the last Highbury in the league. It really is.
I think it probably is, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's only because, to their credit, Liverpool managed to update Anfield where it is. Because Anfield is still Anfield as was. Only it's Anfield.
True.
It's now Anfield for the 21st century, and they've done a brilliant job with it.
Yeah. All right, we've got two more for you. We've got two more for you, and then we're going to let you get out. We're going into added time here with Mr. Drury, who hasn't probably even had his tea yet because he came straight from teaching. Okay. Are you taking the Invincibles or either of the Manchester treble winning teams?
You can't ask me to say out loud which I'd have of those. What I would say is that the Invincibles aesthetically were beautiful, beautiful. But it is indisputable that Manchester United in their time and Manchester City in theirs were probably overall, over the course of an entire campaign on all fronts, more efficient winning machines.
Fair enough.
So there is a fence and I have a splinter.
You're starting a team in the Premier League.
Oh.
Who's your manager, Wenger, Pep, or Sir Alex?
Well, if it's happening today, Pep, because he's the one who's doing it now. And that, I suppose, also gets me another splinter because it kind of dodges the question. It dodges the spirit of the question, which I understand, but I'm pretending not to understand because it's convenient for me to say Pep. But they are all, in their time, geniuses. And by the way, having talked about Lee Dixon and Graham Lasso in similar terms, I think one of the most beautiful pieces of the Premier League narrative was Wenger and Sir Alex becoming friends at the end of it all. Because they tore strips of each other and were genuinely horrible to each other for a long, long time. And then it got to the end and they said, you know what, you weren't so bad after all, actually. And I really enjoyed our fights. And
so good.
Yeah, it's a lovely thing, I think. And that is sport at its best.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, like, we've been lucky. We had George Graham as well, who really was the instigator of changing, you know, kind of the old Arsenal into a new Arsenal. And then Wenger takes it to another level and changes the game. Right, I'll get you out on this one. There's a big debate going along on the channel that you commentate on, sir, on some show about Mo Salah and Cristiano Ronaldo and who's better. I know that this who's better thing is always kind of tricky, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of people saying that Cristiano is one of the GOATs. Of course, he beats Mo Salah when it comes to Premier League status. What's your take on this one? My take is that, forgive me being a pedant, but more splinters.
The problem is that it's a contradiction in terms to say one of the GOATs, isn't it? Because the GOAT is the greatest of all time. And what irks me is that we have to have a greatest of all time, because, forgive me, this really is a terribly vanilla answer, but they're both brilliant. Can we not just celebrate that they're both brilliant? And we've been lucky to watch them play, and they're fabulous and they entertain us and they do stuff that other people can't do. And you know, when I work in a hyperbolic industry, where we'd say great and wonderful and fabulous and superb and all of that stuff, but in the end, for me, watching top level players, what is great is, you know, when people talk about what's the goal of the month. And for me, the goal of the month is something that when I was 25 years old and just an average bloke with a little bit of hand-eye ball coordination, I couldn't have done. So in other words, the ball that rolls out to the edge of the penalty area and somebody belts it into the top corner, it looks a great goal. I think, yeah, that's a great goal. But once upon a time, I could kick a football reasonably firmly. And once in a while, if I'd kicked that football, it might have ended in the top corner. But things that Cristiano Ronaldo did and that Mo Salah is doing week on week, most people who play football in the park on a Sunday morning couldn't come anywhere close to. And that is what makes them brilliant. And the same goes for Saka. He does stuff when he's on his game that you could only dream of doing if you're a normal human being. And the people who fall into that category, for me, deserve to be celebrated, each in his own space and not necessarily set against each other.
Well, what you said about Saka was he has suffered for that pressure, but now the Emirates braces itself for perhaps a pivotal kick of the football. These are broad shoulders. This is courage, a sporting moment in time. BUKAYO Saka, such poise, such noise. I loved it. My hair goes up right now when I think about it. And Brain tells here, the Ronaldo, not just a great scorer, a scorer of great goals. The list is endless, Mr. Drury, of what you have done to colour our football lives. And I believe that you're probably going to give us and deliver a Salah moment because of what he's done. And he has been the best player this season and he deserves his flowers. And who knows, maybe Liverpool will totally fall apart after losing in the League Cup and being knocked out of the Champions League and Trent announcing that he's going. Could it be the biggest collapse in Premier League history? Probably not. But we live in hope.
Yeah, of course you do. And listen, good luck against Real Madrid.
We appreciate that. We appreciate that. And everyone's asking me to rescind your yellow card. They're actually offended that I've given you a yellow card. So we're going to take it to VAR and we'll let you know how that one goes. But you can go off for your tea now. Thank you so much, Peter. I'm going to carry on for a little minute here. Really appreciate you. And thanks so much to Mike for connecting us. Appreciate him always. And maybe I'll see you on the next podathon.
Bless you. Thank you, Sophie. Really enjoyed that. Up the mighty Gooners. Have fun.
Thank you. Thank you. The legend Peter Drury, everybody. And a huge thanks to Magic, who helped make that one happen for me. I'm a huge fan, and I was on the podathon with Peter, and we had a really great chat. And I've always wanted to get him on Highbury Squad for you guys. He was pressed for time a little bit. He's a busy man. He's the GOAT, right? But I think we got some good stuff out of him. And again, thanks to our good friend Magic, who's gone into podcast obscurity since he's moved to Florida, busy swimming with dolphins and unicorns, I think, kids. I hope you enjoyed that one. What a great man and a great show. Thanks all, James Johnston. Magic getting some thanks. Love you too, mate. And we miss you. The best football commentator of our generation, Tammy, our chief like officer, the GOAT chief like officer, reminding you to show a little appreciation. If you're listening on replay as well, which most of you will be, hit the like button. It's shows like this that we love doing on Highbury Squad. We love the one-on-ones. We love the football conversations that go beyond tactics and post-game analysis and people getting crazy at each other. But yeah, this for us is a really special show. And Gunnar Russ, good to see you back in the live chat as well. Thank you to everyone. And Tammy, really appreciate that. So, do you know what I realized today? We don't actually play. We don't actually play until April 1st. I was really excited. I was thinking, oh, football's back this weekend. It's not. It's the FA Cup. That's fine. So what I might do, if it's okay with you guys, I might put in PTO, that's paid time off, my PTO form. And I might take the next 2 or 3 days off, seeing as it's a little bit quiet, and then come back with a bang. I've got 2 banging guests for you guys. You're going to go nuts. You're going to love it. It's going to be special. But I might hang out with Tony, Vinny, and Vespa and, maybe do a little road trip down the California Pacific Coast Highway. And by the way, for me today, it is, by the way, thanks MK, Demian and Albert for your questions as well. Really appreciate that. Today, I send love to all of my fellow Greeks. Today is Independence Day, Greek Independence Day. And so to all of my fellow Greeks out there, Χρόνια πολλά Ελλάδα, ζήτω η Ελλάδα, ελπίζω να είσαστε ευτυχισμένοι, καλή υγεία σε όλους και πάντα η Ελλάδα μας και η Κύπρος μας να είναι χαρούμενοι και χαρούμενες. Ναι, αυτά θα τα πούμε. Αλλά είναι μεγάλη γιορτή για μας σήμερα και για τον ελληνισμό και σας ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ. Sparta. Yeah, it's a really big day and it's a big holiday in Cyprus and Greece. And if I was there, I'd be eating souvlaki, although unless you're fasting for Easter, which I never do. So yes, I'd be eating souvlaki and having a KO beer or a Milos beer, depending, maybe a shot of Zivania as well. So shout out to all my Greeks, all the Greek gooners out there in the universe. Happy Independence Day to us. That's it. That's all I got time for. I love you guys. It's been fun in chat. Let's see. Is there any other thing? Oh, thank you so much. The Chief Like Officer has signed off on my PTO form. That's it. We're done. I love that. A Highbury Squad classic. Thank you, Richard. And Andy Love, giving the love. Another fantastic show, Sophie. You certainly have some great guests to entertain us. Spread the word. Tell everyone. You know, it's really funny. So many people I run into, they're like, how is it you don't have 100,000 subscribers? Well, I could sit here and tell you why, but I'm not going to. Ask Magic Mike instead. Yeah, I have a certain way of doing things here, and I'm very proud of what we've achieved and what we've done together in this squaddy community. And I love you guys, and you are the show, which is why I want to bring you all in when we have guests like that, so you have time to ask questions to people that really make our football experiences so much better as well. Ευχαριστώ, Harvey Moore. Listen, I couldn't think of anyone better to do the speech for Greek Independence Day than Hars. I do love your shows. The insight in chat is brilliant. Yeah, I'm really proud of our chat. And by the way, Newman has not sent new art. I think I may have offended him. He's gone AWOL. I don't know where he is. But if any of you see him on the old X, aka Twitter sphere, let me know. He is supposed to deliver new art, but I'm not sure if he's actually going to do it. Yeah, I've had lots of notes from people saying, Jesus, just please get it over with. Give him the coin. Just know what Kevin would do. So listen, you guys, love you tons, and don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them. Make sure that you stay healthy, you stay happy, you do something fun, and that outside of Arsenal not playing, you're enjoying the football. Don't forget our women play in the Champions League. They have got a bit of a mountain to climb, but they'll be playing on a much nicer pitch, won't they? So let's be rooting for our Arsenal women. Let's hope they can pull it off against Real Madrid. And Albert and Demian will be back with another show. I think I'll be joining them for our next Arsenal women's show. So we'll let you know when that is in the community page. All right, kids. Take care. Lots of love. Be nice to each other. Don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them. Tell everyone about the Peter Drury Show. Thanks for all of your support as always. And at ease, squaddies, at ease.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Carol, that made me chuckle.